Hi, everybody. Jim Ricard's Winery. We're here with a special, exciting Dinner with Brad and Jim show. We've taken the Brad and Jim show. We have a lot of fun with our Brad and Jim show at the winery, winemaking stuff. And this is just a really cool extension of that, I think. This is this is a fun thing. I get to eat a lot of free food and really good free food, actually, and we pair it up with our wines. And that's the challenge.
It's a great challenge, and I'm excited about doing it. And I think part of the extension of this is when we started doing those left bank videos, showing everybody what's happening up here on the left bank. Then it wasn't just about having the most spectacular wine; it was about having the best food. And so these have become food challenges for us to make sure that we have the best pairing with our wine.
Well, yeah, it's true, but the fact is that the reality is that wine is a food product.
Oh,
Okay, it
yes.
is part of our existence, part of of what we do with food, and it's important for us to realize that socially and species wide, stuff's good.
It's absolutely fantastic. Well, so we talked about before where it sustained people for thousands of years when you couldn't go catch something on the savannah or something like that.
But
This is
more
what
than that, it's
brought
the
people
only
around.
safe water to drink.
That is exactly why we had it, so that we could have good, safe water. And just a little quick thing for all of you that are joining us for the first time, just let you know you are all muted. We've got that because if there's 50, 60, 70 who are all talking at the same time, it's kind of hard to get things across. So if you have any questions for us, because this is interactive, please type it in the chat side, and we'll have the questions asked from off screen. And if there's something really important on the lower right hand side of your little communications bar, there's a raise your hand area. Raise the hand, and we'll see if we can get right to your question. And so this is our second installment.
And first installment was at my house
Yes,
in our kitchen, Eliza's kitchen, and now this is at
we
your
got that
house
is very
now.
clear.
This is at your house now,
Yeah,
and
so
we're out on the deck, right?
we're out on the deck, and we were really thinking about all you folks out on the East Coast and the blizzards, the three blizzards you just had. We made it to 67, 68 degrees today,
Oh, don't be
so
that. Don't flaunt that.
we thought
Okay.
we thought it might be nice to do it out on the deck. And also, you saw the expansiveness of Eliza's kitchen. My kitchen's a little bit smaller, and so we have a little more room to move around out here on the deck. But if you're coming up to the house for dinner, most likely this is where you're going to be spending time with Danny and I.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is what it's about. I mean, this is about our homes.
Yes.
And so today we're we're doing Sauv and with some crab. Now, I was born and raised in San Francisco, and crab was considered poor food. If you wanted to fund anything, you had a crab feed because it was so cheap, and it was what you got. And but over the years, times and things have changed, and Dungeness crab has become a specialty and a truly delightful thing. And you've come up with a recipe to,
Yeah, a real nice what would be considered a crab salad that we put together. And honestly, when we were talking about putting this thing together, and we were talking about me showing my Sauvignon Blanc off, what's going to go great with it, I immediately thought of the Dungeness crab. And at this time of year in California, typically Dungeness crab is coming in so hot and heavy, like you were saying, everybody can afford it.
yep.
Well, the season was a little late this year, and they decided to go on strike a bit, and so it is super expensive. And I do apologize for all of you that had to go out and buy this Dungeness crab, but I'm not going to apologize for flavor because Dungeness is absolutely fantastic. And then all you folks out there in Maryland, please, I certainly hope you picked up your local or whatever's
The rock crab.
local, the rock crab, and then you've got those big jumbo claws down in Florida. So wherever you're at, hopefully you picked out whatever crab can be as fresh and local as possible. And if you're on the heart of the country, hopefully it was flown in. But if you got Dungeness, you were,
God bless you.
yeah, it was expensive, but
Sorry, we didn't plan on that.
no,
We didn't plan on
I
it.
did it specifically because the crab season was supposed to start a month and a half ago. At this point, everybody was full, and the crab prices were supposed to be
Plummeting.
coming down a little bit.
Yep.
Didn't work out that way. They're still spiking. So,
Well, anyways, the answer
there's some good
is
stuff.
now. So let's get back on basics again. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. What is this stuff?
All right, so we've got our this is our 2019 Sauvignon Blanc, and it's from the southern region of Alexander Valley. So as Alexander Valley is coming south, it sort of hooks around Healdsburg, and then the Russian River meets up with it. A little bit of overlap down there. So the southern region of Alexander Valley, it is mountainside fruit, so it's not on the flat ground, and a couple different things are happening in that particular location. Alexander Valley is you've got the word for it, but it's known for warm or hot afternoons and cold nights, and that really is really important.
The thing is, I want to actually going to kind of divert a little bit.
Mhm.
It's not something we talked about earlier, but I just popped in my mind just now, and that is a lot. We talk a lot about AVAs, American
Mm.
Viticultural Areas. Okay, and what that means, and how, and then we kind of we zero it down a little bit more on well, Alexander Valley. Well,
Right.
this is my home. This is where I've lived for the past 44 years, and well, it is an AVA, American Viticultural Area. And what that means, that means that it's someplace special in the world, guys, in
Yes.
the whole world. And it has special qualities about it that make things a little different than somebody else. You know, we talk about uh, Dry Creek Valley. We always say Dry Creek, but what we really mean is the Dry Creek AVA. It's a
Yes.
box canyon that it has a lot of growing pop, you know, things about it that do it.
A little warmer in the afternoon, not quite as cold at night, and not as
Correct.
much fog that can come through
Now,
because it's kind of cut off from the Russian River.
exactly. Now, the Alexander AVA is this narrow little tube of a valley that's got a northwest orientation.
Yep.
I mean north south, excuse me, north south orientation, and it has a river that runs through it, the Russian River, that goes all the way to the coast, to the Pacific. We are Pacific coast influenced by the Russian River, and that's important to understand. And yeah, I got words to describe it. It's called Alexander Valley has one of the highest diurnal temperature changes. Now, okay, that
That means what, Jim?
but boom. Okay, what that means is our highs and lows
Mhm.
are spectacular. We could be 100 degrees during the day and go down to 50 degrees or less at night.
And why is that so important? The most important thing is that those hot afternoons allow the grapes to ripen and increase their sugar so they can actually get to ripe. And then those cold nights preserve the acids. And when you can have a grape that ripens fully and has strong acid, you have a grape that doesn't need a ton of work
It's got
to
great
be delicious.
balance.
It's
The
perfectly
wine,
balanced
at the end
at
of
the
the
beginning.
day becomes balanced,
It,
and that's what we're aiming for.
and that's the most important part about this location, and this is why the rest of the world is so envious of this particular location, is because they can't achieve that high temperature and low temperature preserving ripeness and acid achieving balance, they have to get the balance somehow during fermentation or well after the fact and try
Okay,
to bring it in.
okay. I'm gonna lay my tomatoes on you.
All right,
Okay,
tomato time.
tomatoes
This
time.
is important
And
too because tomatoes go crazy out here.
well, here's the thing: is 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 how that works is a lot like tomatoes. Every great world-class wine growing region has the commonality
Mm.
of lengthening out for one reason or another the growing
Yes.
season. We've talked about this before, but it's true.
Yep.
And and tomatoes are the best example of that. What's the difference between a tomato that you buy at a grocery store and one you buy that you pick out of your backyard? Well, obviously there's a lot of flavor involved, but more than that, it's time on the vine. The grocery store tomato was picked earlier. The backyard tomato was picked at optimal ripeness.
I'm not going to pick that hard tomato.
Well, the reality, I mean, the fact is that you've allowed that fully time on the vine,
Yes.
and the Alexander Valley allows that process because of those temperature changes. And now, okay, so we got these grapes, and they're from the Alexander Valley. What'd you do with them?
Oh my gosh. We squished them, didn't think about it, put them in a bottle. Everything was fine.
Or exactly. Or here's
Or here's the other thing. It's much harder to figure out when you're supposed to harvest these things because of that reason. We can have an amazingly warm August and all of a sudden everybody's squealing. It's going to be an early harvest. It's going to be early harvest this year. And then right at the end of August, all of a sudden we get that beautiful fog influence and we get those nice,
everything slows
down. And then
to
we get that,
slow-mo.
and we end up with that amazing hang time where if we were just in a warm region, those grapes would have been harvested 3 weeks earlier and they would have been fine. They would have tasted fine. There would have been nothing wrong with them, with the exception of they wouldn't have a complete ripeness and they wouldn't be balanced right off the bat. You'd have to be working extra hard in the winery to make them tasty. What I always say is that us out here in the Alexander Valley have to work a little less in the winery to make a grape tasty because the grape just naturally comes that
Here's
way.
the real answer. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Okay?
That's probably true too. I like that.
You can't take
No, you can't.
grapes. The grapes do what they do, and they make it into wine what you present them with. And when we're picking grapes and deciding on ripeness, we're eating a lot of grapes.
Well, wait a minute, Jim. Aren't you concerned that another 100,000 tons of grapes are coming in next week? Don't you really want to get stuff?
All right. Here's the deal.
All
All right. Here's the real deal. Is that winemaking is a lot like cooking. It really is. And here's when you were making a red wine. You're sneaking into
I
that.
was thinking of the cheese. Well, all right. The secondary pairing for this was the Parmesan and Reggiano. I didn't want to interrupt you because this is so important. But I needed a little Parmesan, the Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh my. Okay, Moki.
I think I jumped the gun. I'm sorry. I just saw it sitting there and I couldn't
Okay.
help myself.
No, this is. I'm glad we did. That's really good.
Mm.
That adds the acidity of the wine. Really makes that nutty character blossom.
Brings it right out. And then that nutty character of the cheese. Oh, Freddie's doing good back there, having his fun. That nutty character of the cheese. Then he had that nice little salty bite that really enhances the flavor of the wine. And don't get me wrong, Parmesan is great with many, many wines.
Well, typically,
not just Sauvignon Blanc.
What's really cool about this is.
I'm sorry, gotta get a little more.
What's really cool about this is that typically Parmesan is sprinkled on salad or pizza
Yep.
or pasta, whatever, as a kind of a like a salt and pepper thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
This is a good tasting cheese.
you know, it says I'm in the Alexander Valley, which, has a lot of Italians around here.
Mm.
They tell me that that's their salt. That
Oh.
typically they're focused on using the Parmesan cheese as salting and enhancing the flavors of all of that
I think
stuff.
it's a good stand-up cheese
It's a fantastic one for this.
all by itself.
Oh man, absolutely nice. Right. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go into the cheese. It was sitting there and it looked delicious.
You just had to. Okay.
So
So,
good.
anyways, back to
Yes.
winemaking. Okay.
Absolutely.
Winemaking is like making soup. Okay.
Yes.
In that when you're making soup stock, when you're making soup stock, you basically are putting the bones and the carrots and the onions in a pot,
Mhm.
and you cook the crap out of it for hours and hours and hours. At the end of the day, you sieve that out, and what you have left is a juice that it's extracted. It's taken all the flavors out of all the components and put them in one place.
So when you're making red wine, so you're letting it ferment together with the skins. It's extractive, taking all those flavors out of the skins, and so it's not just what you're left with of the juice. You've got the skin flavor mixed with
Exactly.
the juice.
100% of the color comes from the skins.
Yes.
70% of the tannin flavors come from the skins.
Yes.
30% from the seeds. They're the extractive. You're extracting out. But what you've given up is that individual flavor, the
Yes.
fruit flavor, because you've cooked it like soup stock. Now, white wine is made a little different. And white wine can be made in a production style or a unique style. And typically how we make white wine is like making vegetables soup. Then in other words, we cut the carrots up or the peas, and you put them in the pot and you cook them until they're done. So basically, it take a sip and it tastes like a carrot.
It tastes like the carrot or the pea or whatever happened, whatever vegetable you decided to do.
Exactly. And then you preserve that vegetable flavor, or let's translate it to fruit flavor.
Right.
Well, when we're making white wine, um, how did you make this wine?
All right. So this wine, of course, we harvested it at the right day and the right time. The other
When it tasted good.
when it tastes right. All right, here's the deal. You can have you can harvest your wine based on how much sugar the grape actually has in it at that point, or the acids, or a combination of both. Or you could harvest it because you have a tank open, or you don't have a tank open, and you could decide to leave it hanging, and you decided that based
That's a
on
production mode.
that's production. So when we do it, at least the way we do it is when the grape is ready, that's when it comes into the winery.
We dedicated a tank for it.
Yes.
The tank that the wine is going to be staying in for the next 6 months until the wine's bottled.
Yep.
And
That tank's got nothing else coming in. Nothing else has to happen in that tank. That tank is now dedicated for that wine.
we actually have a term we call white wines tank hogs,
Yes.
because what they do is normal production winery, you want to what we call turn your tanks. In other words, you want to ferment, ferment, ferment.
Maybe you get
ferment,
3
ferment.
white wines and 2 reds.
Yeah,
Maybe even 3 reds,
Yeah,
depending on the
exactly.
season,
yeah, and
out of each tank.
yeah.
But this wine was made in one tank, and no other wine could go in there because it hogged it up for the whole season.
Correct.
And
that's
so
what you got to do.
it got babied the whole time, and it didn't have to be hurried along. And what Jim's really talking about is that red wines are relatively fast fermenters, and there's not a great reason to let a red wine ferment for 30 days or more. And you were talking about carbonic fermentation at that point, and that's a whole other story for a whole other time. But for white wines, you can let them ferment super fast like a red, 7 to 14 days, and then that tank is empty. And
But
can
you
do
give up.
another
What do
one.
you give up?
Oh, flavor, texture, quality, subtlety, nuance, but the word is balance. You lose the balance between the fruit and the acidity, and you'll lose all sorts of flavors. And so high quality white wines are fermented for a very long period of time, and it's considered a very long period of time because if a red can ferment and actually be pretty tasty in 7 to 14 days,
Yes.
but if we extend the fermentation for 30,
We're cooling.
it's
cooling.
we're keeping those yeast.
We're making vegetable soup.
Yes, and
Okay.
those yeasts, because the wine is not hot, because we use jacketed tanks to keep it cool, those yeasts can't ferment, and we end up with, I don't know, 7 to 8 billion instead of a couple million.
50 degrees.
But we keep it at 50 to 55
50,
degrees,
yeah.
depending on where we're wanting to ferment at. And so the fermentation process, because the yeast can't multiply very quickly, is a very slow one because fermentation is all about how quickly yeast can reproduce and eat more sugar to create more alcohol. And if they do it quickly on a white wine, you're losing flavor. And then the yeast is also a really important thing too, because uh, you have a strain of yeast up at your property that is very
A native,
aggressive,
yeah.
and a native, which is incredibly rare. But besides that, we use specialized yeast for our white wine, so that they're used to a slower fermentation. Because your yeast is a pretty aggressive one that really wants to ferment things
Take
quickly.
off and take it home. But the thing is that what we want to do is if we cool the cooking down, if you would, and with white wines, and what that does is instead of taking 2 weeks for fermentation, it takes a month to 6 weeks.
Yes.
We're preserving that beautiful fruit quality.
Right.
We're not giving
It's
that
not
up.
burning through it. And here's the heat component too. Before jacketed tanks, barrel fermentation, because barrels are smaller or small little tanks, because when the yeast are active, they're creating heat. And the true keeping of that flavor, when we can control that heat production of the yeast, that allows the fruit flavor to be more expressive. And let's get into that with these wines. And what does this wine taste like? So there's classic Sauvignon Blancs. New Zealand's really been dominating in their style. A real high grapefruit grassy note. And so you have like two flavors with those styles of wine where it's grapefruit and grass in the wine. But when you're looking at a more European style of wine or a Sancerre, which is one of my favorite growing regions in white wine, especially Sauvignon Blanc productions on the planet, you get more than citrus. So there's some melons running around in there, and there's some other flavors, and
I'm
that
seeing
sort of
that here.
balances
I'm seeing
the
that here. I
acid.
mean, this is a wine that's pretty extraordinary in the fact that as a Sauv Blanc, it's low in grass. Okay,
Are you getting
and
any grass?
no,
Low in grass meaning almost no grassy components.
and and you know,
No.
no, no, no. What I'm getting is a lot of citrusy qualities
Yep.
about it. I'm getting a lot of
There's some melons running there. And what's neat about the citrus to me is that it's not just grapefruit like some Sauvignon
it's not
Blancs.
sour.
Yeah. Well, I like grapefruit, but grapefruit can absolutely be sour unless they put a lot of sugar on top of it when I'm eating it.
Yeah.
And doesn't need sugar. This another winemaking process is that this is fermented dry. So there's not residual sugar or detectable residual sugar. I mean, wines can ferment anywhere to negative to a slightly positive, but that'd be considered a non sugary wine. This
I sure
wine,
do like this cheese with this.
oh my gosh! Well, you know what? I did spring for real Parmesan and Reggiano. And actually, Danny, if you would get ready to bring some plates out here, we probably should do some tasting of the
Now,
food.
do we have any questions, anybody?
Oh, but yes, let's do that first, please. All good. Everything's doing good.
So far, so good.
Excellent. I did spring for real Parmesan and Reggiano. I probably said it wrong, but the richness, the earthiness, the nuttiness, and that bright salt really makes me happy. I just love this cheese on its own, and not just a great cheese for Sauvignon Blanc. It can go into your medium-bodied reds, but great with almost every
I bet this
white.
would be really good with some Zin.
Oh, absolutely, the Zin, because that nice saltiness is going to enhance those bright what is that? Those bright strawberry and raspberry
Yeah,
flavors
yeah.
of the Zin,
And the acidity is really nice there.
and but bringing some earthiness to the game that is, I think that actually would balance the Zin
Mhm.
quite
Yeah.
nicely.
Mm, mm.
But
No questions?
beautiful. All right,
All
no
right.
questions. I'll just go ahead and bring the crab in, Danny.
Oh,
But I'll talk
okay.
about the wine just for one more smidgen. So we've got the beautiful, nice. Oh, there's Danny.
Well, hello
What's
there,
going on?
everybody.
There's Danny.
All right, we have some
That's our super chef.
beautiful crab salad,
Awesome.
paired with the Sauvignon Blanc, with the chipotle aioli.
A chipotle aioli.
Yes,
Oh my gosh, that's
absolutely.
fantastic. Is that just like we added some chipotle to mayonnaise?
No, we made our own mayonnaise and made our own
And I hope you guys,
aioli.
I really hope you guys
Absolutely.
did too. You know, best foods is great. But if you do it yourself, it is better.
Yes.
And
Oh,
last
crab.
week Jim was saying
Got
that
a
I had
question
something
over
spicy.
there.
We have a question. Yes.
Florence would like to know, before we take a bite here, what should we be smelling with this Sauvignon Blanc? Can you describe the aromatics?
Hey, Florence, you know, the aromatics here. Okay. I'm getting right off the bat, I'm getting citrusy notes. And
I'm getting a citrus, but not a grapefruit. It's definitely more a lemon orange versus grapefruit
yeah,
to me.
you know, if
But
I
I'm
was
getting
to
a
say
little
anything, I'd
mellow.
say like blood orange.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, there's a nice hybrid orange for us. That's fantastic. A blood orange, absolutely perfect description for it. And just a wonderful citrusy note, a little bit of melons kind of bringing in the back. And there was another question.
Arturo wants to know on any thoughts as to how your Sauv compares to those made in New Zealand, in particular, both in Martinborough as well as in the Marlborough regions. If this is too esoteric, he says that's okay.
No,
But I got a feeling
I
my
can get
buddy
it.
Jim Ricards is going to have an answer.
I'm a grape grower.
We can
I don't grow grapes in Marlboro.
we don't grow any grapes in Marlborough region, only here in Sonoma
Okay,
County.
so let's look
But-
at some
but
of
we
the
do know
things
that style.
Yeah, we do know that style. And the fact is that in New Zealand they make some really nice balanced wines,
Mhm.
but there tend to be
The ones shipped here,
more. Huh?
but then they ship those other ones here.
Well, here's the thing: is that they tend to be a little more minerally in quality,
Mhm.
in the mineral acidity, and more of the lean style, and a little bit short of finish. You're looking here at a wine that I would call a red drinker's white because of the length of palate, the length. Well, whereas New Zealand style tend to be a little more grassier, less grassier, more of the citrusy
Really
characteristic,
fruit driven.
and
So freshly mown grass,
and-
big grapefruit,
yeah,
and that kind of translates to the palate too.
it's a little short finish.
So and here's the thing, not a bad thing. This isn't a knock. This is just a difference in style and
It's
how
grape growing region.
how we want to do.
It's
There's
terroir.
the knock.
It's what the
I
AVA
was going to
we
be
talk
gentler. I was going to be gentler than that. And just because they can't, and we're talking about they can't quite ripen them. And so here's, I know.
Okay.
And so what happens is you have big grass. They're green grass, under-ripened grape. Not a bad thing. It's their thing. All grapefruit in the middle. Can't get the ripeness to get all those subtleties and nuances in there. And then a really quick finish because it's super high acid and there's not a lot of other flavors, so it finishes really quickly. These aren't bad things. New Zealand wines are incredibly popular right now, and a lot of Americans are trying to make that style.
Okay.
And that's fine. Jim and I happen to
can't do
like
that.
Jim and I happen to like the wines that aren't just big bombs of fruit especially for our whites, and we want some subtleties and some nuance. And so there's melons and a general citrus and a general melon. There is a nice melon and citrus flavor, no grass, but actually,
An exotic fruit, star fruit, these kind of things. You know, the
and
reality is that what you're talking about is place.
Mhm.
And and and
yes,
good wine is good wine.
there's well,
Okay.
that's the truth.
The reality is good wine is good wine. And you know, I you know, the Sauv Blanc that I make and the Sauv Blanc you make, you know, we're not comparable to New Zealand
No,
or Bordeaux.
no.
You know, we don't try to be. I can't do it. I can't. I wouldn't want to make be an imposter and try to make. Oh, this is tastes just like this. You know, no. The fact is what I
We want to
want.
highlight what we've got.
Right.
And
We're in a world class growing region. This is the example of what we do
yes,
in a world. And 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 to that end, let's eat some crab.
let's
Damn it,
get into the
anyways.
crab. That sounds absolutely fantastic. All right, here we go.
Okay, now tasting. Getting back
I
to
was going to say we gotta get back into
the rules.
here. We do have rules, especially if we're trying to pay attention. And although we've had plenty of times where we just dug in and had some good. Let's taste the wine. Let's think about the wine, and then let's think about what's happening with the crab and
We
what's the
do.
crab doing to
My
it.
rules are three. Basically, you taste the wine, you taste the food, you taste the combination. So at the end of the day, you at the end of the day, we can have three different flavors.
Sorry, he was like, I see some claws on the table.
I think I'm trying to think of the famous comedian that talked about children and
Children,
dogs.
yes,
You know.
will be more famous than all of us. This one.
Anyways, the thing is that what we're trying to do here is we're trying to have three flavors, and you know, again, tasting and food pairing,
Mm.
people sweat enormously too much over this, and at the end of the day,
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry,
People would like
this
a
one was not.
close-up.
This
Well,
one.
some people,
Oh!
since they did not make the recipe,
Oh,
would
sorry
like
about that.
a close-up
all right.
of
Oh, can
what
we
the
focus
dish looks
in there? Actually, you might
like.
have to come around their side, Danny. Come around. Come
Okay,
around the back.
Here we go. Round the back.
Come
side.
over here, and then so that way it's not blinded by the white plate. Actually, JJ, if
Okay.
you could turn off the
Oh, no,
lights
there
real
it
quick.
is. There
Oh,
it is. Look
there it
at
is. All right.
that.
Okay.
All right.
That's
Brad, talk about it.
all right. Those are some fantastic claws right up on top. Hopefully you got some claws with your crab. We've got a lot of claws in there. This
All
thing
right,
is
there we
really
go.
highlighting a wonderful sweet, the sweetness of the crab, where this wine is higher in acid and no residual sugar. What you want to do is we're trying to find a little balance with the sweetness of the crab and the high acid of the wine.
so what we need to do again, taste the wine,
I was
taste
going to
the
dig
food.
into my. I was going for claws. Let's go for wine first.
Go for
All
wine
right,
first.
thank you, Jim, for hanging, holding me back. All right, here we
Gotta
go.
get the root.
All right,
Okay.
so I've got this beautiful. We've got these beautiful aromatics. We've got this wonderful general citrus note. It could be a lemon. It could be a lime. It could be some orange or some grapefruit. It's not a
But
driving
it's has a
grapefruit.
nice body to it.
Beautiful, beautiful body. And then it's not. There's no grassiness to it. So there's no grass. We're just all fruit up on the nose. All right. Well, Jim's enjoying. I'm going to keep talking about what else is happening here. So on the palate, those wonderful citrus flavors come up on the front end. They run around. Sometimes with a quick finishing wine, you're not going to get any side palate. It's just going to kind of zip along. But I wanted to get back to the age of this wine. This wine's actually a year in the bottle right now. And so that year in the bottle is actually doing some great things for it. Typically, Sauvignon Blancs are consumed incredibly young. I consider a year incredibly young, but for most Americans, a Sauvignon Blanc at 6 months old is very young. I think this wine's right now coming into its own.
You know, I think that this wine, our Sauvignon Blanc, our 2019, had this kind of delayed weirdness about it. Okay. That's not
Failure to launch.
Excuse me, wait a second.
What is a delayed weirdness?
Weirdness.
Actually, Jim, in
Tell me about the
scientific
weirdness.
terms, can you explain to me what that means?
Okay. Basically, what I'm talking about is, when we tasted it up front, it had this kind of nice wine characteristic, nice kind of, one-dimensional wine. Wasn't bad. Wasn't, and I liked it, nice enough. But I was talking to Blaine about it, and we're thinking, it's not what we've done in the past. And typically, again, like you said, Sauv Blanc is not an ageable wine. And at the end of the day, though, as this wine aged over this last year, it's become enormously more complex, and it's developed this mid palate, and this length that I would think is as typical as I like, as what we make. And I'm seeing the same thing with yours.
Yeah, this one's coming together absolutely fantastically. A year in the bottle. I'm so pleased with this. This is when most people would be having panic attacks because
We
their
haven't sold
Sauvignon
it, yeah.
Blanc that has no balance can't withstand the aging. This one is aging absolutely fantastically. And then I actually had Jim's as well, and his is even doing more incredible things than it was just a few months ago. So not every white wine is meant to be consumed incredibly young. And then that's why I would consider this a little more European, because this is around the time, and with yours, this is around the time that the Europeans are now releasing their wine. And because they're allowing all those flavors to develop and be complex. All right, so we've been moving and on. We haven't even talked about the crab yet. But wait, we've got one more question before the crab comes in. We got
crab. These people cannot wait for the crab.
Okay, here's the deal.
They can't wait for the crab. So
all right,
I'm going to move along. Suggestions, Denny, for using the rest of the aioli?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry, I just wolfed down a giant claw. That was fantastic. I didn't know we were going to have that kind of a question. Here's the deal: the aioli. I know we made you make a bunch because in my Cuisinart, if you only use a half a cup of oil, you couldn't get the emulsification. So we had you make some more. Use it just like you would use a regular mayonnaise. Use it in your wraps, in your sandwiches. Use it as a side for your chips. It is absolutely fantastic to add a little bit of spice to whatever you want. I make this aioli all the time. It's not just for the crab, but what I like about it, but we got one more question coming up, but what I like about it, and then you're not a spicy guy.
Yeah.
But that little hint of spice
Exactly.
on the spice kind of adds to it, and then it kind of quenches the Sauvignon Blanc, kind of quenches that spice. And so this is why I really love this pairing. So you have the sweetness of the crab, which of course is a great pairing with sparkling wine, champagne, or seven. I'm sorry,
Excuse me, sir.
I'm so rude. I'm so rude. But so all right, that's what I love about this, is that little hint of spice really kind of kicks it up a notch. Bam. Emerald, yes.
No more questions, just comments. In case
comments.
anybody is visually impaired and cannot read the comments, please pair that with pan-seared ono, scrambled eggs, oh God, yes, fish tacos, great idea, and
Cheerios. Cheerios is not in there.
no, that was raisin bran, and that paired better with the Gewürztraminer. So we do have a question on this end. Nancy wants to know, what is this aged? I keep picking up in the oak.
They're actually all right. This wine did see 10% oak, but it was very, very old barrels, 10-year-old barrels. There shouldn't have been any oak flavors to it.
Remember what we talked about last week?
We did.
We talked
It's
about
only to interact.
It's
a mouthfeel.
Mouthfeel.
Yeah, it's only to interact with your mouthfeel. So 10% of this wine saw some oak aging, and just for a couple of months, no oak flavors are coming out of this wine. Um,
No,
it's only so that the wines that went in the barrels, there's more oxygen interacting with the wine. And so what's happening is that we're taking some of this wine and letting it age quicker than the stuff that's in the tank. And then when we blend them both together, that nice aged quality is going to come into the tank
it's
as
a
well.
lazy character.
Yes, those at least. Well, there we go again. And also because we can't extract the lees, so those are all those pulpy things that kind of sit down on the bottom of the barrel, and those lees are actually adding fantastic flavors as well to the wine as well.
Now, when I taste the wine,
Was this too much crab for you? Should I have made a smaller portion?
no, um, I'll take it.
I'm getting in there right now. Don't let me stop.
I'm seeing a richness that occurs with the wine. The wine changes, and wine changes
Mhm.
in a really cool way, and um, it becomes
Oh.
a little richer. That mid palate, it gets so much
Changes in the
bigger.
right way, though, right?
Well, of course, yeah,
So here's
yeah.
a wine that I loved on its own. We were enjoying
Yeah.
it. But now here we go. We have all that vinegar in there. We have that high acid. There's a lot of high acid here, but then you get the emulsification with the olive oil,
Don't
and
work
you
that way.
have the rich sweetness of the crab that really brings. This is the food and wine pairing that really is really important to understand food and wine pairing. It's not just a steak with some red wine. Um, Everything that's happening here is affecting the wine, but what's really exciting is the wine's affecting what's happening here as well. And we have another question.
Quick question directed towards Mercury wines in specific here, from a J. Ricard's Wine Club member
Mhm.
that's hanging out and eating and drinking with us.
Where does claw come from? Out of the bottom? I'll leave for the claws on top.
Stop eating all the claws. Save some for me. Elizabeth is one of the J. Ricard's Club members, and she wants to know how to join your club, but isn't getting a lot of information on a quick glance. She's probably bouncing back and forth from the Zoom.
Well, the
Trotting
neat thing
it-
about Jim compared to me is that Jim actually has his act together. And if you wanted to join his club, it's very simple. And you can go to his website and figure it all out. But if you go to our website and you scroll to the bottom, or hit in the menu and go to club, you can find our club information there, and you can join up. And the other really neat thing about Jim and I, because we're relatively close in location, we like to give discounts to both, but please join up. That'd be fantastic. And, we will take good care of you, just not as easily as Jim does. He's been doing all right. I'm not going to throw you under the bus here as far as age things go. He's been doing it a lot longer than I have, and he's got it down, and he's got a staff. And it's
Nancy Lundquist says to everyone, just call Grady.
just,
And I'll leave it at that from over here
Oh,
on the
there we go.
sidebar.
All right, Nancy, thank you for helping me out, Nancy.
Grady is a hoot.
And
We're
you've
getting a
been
lot of
awesome. Thank you for hanging. So if you call Grady, there's about a 60% chance he'll remember. There's about a 20% chance he'll get you in the club right. But there's 100% chance that if you have a problem, we'll try to make it right and fix
Oh, there
it.
you go.
And I'm so Grady. All right. I don't think that was harsh.
You're good.
Not Grady. Everything's good. We'll make it right for you.
everybody who's loving this food and wine pairing.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
Thank you so much.
I'm privy to look at the pictures of you beautiful people. They can't see me, but I can see all of
we
you
can't see your pictures.
doing what you're all doing. Hello, Lundquist. I see you waving. Hello, Elizabeth Price.
Oh my God.
Everybody's got a smile on their face. Everybody is loving this combination of food and wine.
Again,
Mike Wilson just looks absolutely ecstatic and silly in his kitchen. He's there with his wife. He's got a big thumbs up. I think this little dinner here is a winner. Everybody, I'm flipping through. I got 46 people online. I'm looking at 46 different kitchens and whatnot. Everybody's having a good time. The Seaberts, I think, are on their second bottle. He's trying to look all nonchalant. He's like, I know it's my first bottle. Duncan says it's the first. She says, no, 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 this is bottle number 4. I'm going to bounce out of the Siebert's video cam because I don't want to get into that cat fight. But everybody is really loving the pairing.
Oh, thank
the
you
crab
guys so
cakes
much.
beat
Thank you.
I can't even
And
pronounce
I've
it.
got to, I gotta jump in because I'm looking over at Jim because Jim was telling me this the other day that, you know, spicy wasn't his deal. But I was very worried about the aioli and the chipotle. It's so here's the deal. Now I reduced the chipotle by about a quarter for you specifically for this dish because I didn't want you to be on fire and then say that my wine paired horribly and it didn't taste good with the sweet crab.
Well,
But I did it specifically for you, and you should for your guests as well. Not just I like spicy, but I knew that my good buddy Jim was coming over, but I see him. I'll call it lapping up a lot of the chipotle. Is this spice level okay for you?
yes, it is. The thing is, what is it to me? Spiciness is like adding salt. You know,
Does it add
I like
anything to the pairing?
well, yes, of course it does. Here's the the thing is that I'm not a real spicy, hot kind of person because to me it changes a lot of the flavors that I like.
Yes.
Okay. However, adding a little pinch of this, a little pinch of that is acceptable. I can take this a little aioli out here
Do a little roll in.
and roll in a little bit of the crab into it, and I got it.
Did it accentuate it for you?
It
I
added,
really hope it did.
yeah, it did. It did. Added a lot to it. And what, you know, the whole thing about spice, white wine, people drink
It's
white wine to put out the fire.
Yes.
And that's not what I like.
Where you're talking about those super spicy Asian Thai dishes, and you need a sweet white wine to sort of tame them down. I was hoping that actually the chipotle accentuated the sweetness of the crab, but balanced it with the wine.
It really did. It was really a nice combination. The chipotle really added a dimension that really went quite well. Here, let me get you a
Oh,
little more.
I'm a little parched, but when I was, but sometimes a big heat just overwhelms everything.
Any spice
Yeah,
really overwhelms anything.
spicy ginger, horseradish, all those things can just overwhelm.
Salt or pepper can do it.
Yes, even a salt and pepper. So what I wanted to do, and why I love the chipotle with the crab. So you got the wonderful sweetness of the crab. Awesome. Hopefully you really enjoy the Sauvignon Blanc on its own. So you have a great Sauvignon Blanc to go
And
with
by the
it.
way, one of the things that's kind of underrated here is the saltiness of the crab. It adds an enormous component to your
I chose the Parmesan
Yeah.
because that saltiness, salt.
Don't forget about that.
Don't forget about the salt.
Okay. Don't
It-
forget about the saltiness of the
It's
of
really
the
important. Oh my
crab.
gosh. Actually, that's what I was talking about, making sure for our next dinner series, and it's going to be a dinner series, not a 4-course dinner coming up soon. Don't
We're
forget
talking
that.
about we're talking about April.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to do it again in April, and it's going to have its own special challenges, but we're going to get it.
we always
And
have.
by the way,
special
I guess
challenges.
I like crab. You don't.
I was.
You're talking too much.
Do you want to explain the subtle nuances between carbonic fermentation and natural fermentation?
They don't
And then
listen to
I get to enjoy the rest of the crab here. Danny, more crab.
Anyway,
crab.
so what we're going to be doing, and we're going to be doing it
Oh.
in April, is a more complete kind of meal thing, and we're working on it, guys. But we're also going to we have a wait list. We're also going to
Yes.
give all you guys first choice also. And
Email us. Doesn't matter if you email Mercury or Jim Ricard.
Yep.
Let us know you want to be on the wait list, and you're going to get preferential treatment, i.e., this sold out in 48 hours. So if you're on the wait list, you'll every person that wants to join up will subtract to how many people can come, and you'll be in without missing out, because we had so many people miss out on this, and we don't want that to happen to you, because you're actually having fun and enjoying it.
Hmm.
Oh my
All right,
gosh.
I heard more crab. Was that just?
I was just Jim's lacking
Hey,
in
if
crap.
Jim needs more crab, I have more crab for Jim.
that's okay.
Okay,
That's all right.
All right. And if you need more wine, I got more wine for you.
Actually, we've just about killed this bottle, but
All right, just
Well,
check.
no.
Make sure the sparkling wine is ready to go.
So,
my thought,
anyways,
my thought with the wine, the crab, the chipotle, crab and chipotle, not a classic pairing. I think that it can be a little distracting for some folks, but I do believe with this pairing, with the Sauvignon Blanc, the crab, and the chipotle, that little bit of heat, a little bit of sweet, with the dryness and acidity,
exactly, it was in balance.
works.
The
Oh,
deal is
That's
that
that's
this
the
is
key.
a really it's important thing. This is no different than this. This needs to be in balance.
Yes.
This needs to be in balance. Okay, so you get a little heat, you get a little spiciness, you get that sweetness, and we're good to go.
Crab is
Now-
absolutely fantastic.
So we're done for the night practically. And next week we're going to be having dinner at my house.
All sorts of
And-
fantastic things. So what's going on for next week?
Next week we're going to be having soup.
Well, not just us soup.
No, not just the soup.
It's
My roasted squash soup. And it gets back when I was pretty much gardening in the early years and raising all our own food. Everything worked. And one of my favorites was squash and winter squash, butternut, acorn squash. Other kinds of squashes you have this time of the year, believe it or not. You don't have them in the fall.
no, the ones that ripen a little bit later.
With they're keepers, they go into your cellar. And those are the ones you have to eat when in the late winter, and that's why they're called winter squash, because they last through the winter time. And that's what we're having. We're having that with our Zin, and more than that, a unique Zinfandel, our La Cosecha, which means the Spanish. It means the harvest. In this case, the harvest of 3 different vineyards that were combined together. So,
And you're pairing it up with your late winter harvest. So
Yeah.
it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So this is really
Cheers, my
coming
friend.
for. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
thank you.
I certainly hope you guys are
Yay.
having a good time. Come and see us again for next week, because we'll be back at Jim's house and we're going to be enjoying the squash and his Zin. And join us next week for roasted squash and La Concha Zin. There we go. We got it all ready.
And
to
wait a second.
go.
Wait a second. Got a shout out here. Jude's on answering questions.
She's
JJ's
doing
behind
fantastic. Absolutely.
there, running all the technical stuff.
Danny's providing us with fantastic food and
Absolutely.
drink. So we have a huge staff. Okay, it's just Jim and I are having a great time over here, but we have a huge staff behind the scenes
We do.
making all these things
A cast
happen.
of thousands.
Thousands.
And
Freddie
and
just
Freddie.
decided to camp next to Squash Town, or Crab
Okay.
Town. But thank you guys so much. And you know what? We're going to see you guys next week. And we really do appreciate your support. We'll see you soon.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.